Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing and commenting. I really appreciate the support. And in this one, I wanted to speak to you about curiosities and following them to figure out what you're supposed to be doing with your time on this planet. I recently posted image on my YouTube community, so you've probably seen it already, about how someone said follow your curiosities and see where they lead to, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And I've really been noticing that in my life recently, and that's why one of the reasons why I've been sharing with you some of the books that I've been writing about have been about very particular random subjects. And a lot of you have probably been watching my videos thinking, that's odd. Why is she writing about self-love? Or why is she writing about writing every single day? Well, that one makes more sense. Or this one that I'm writing about right now, the book that I want to speak about, I'm writing about healing the land, or healing yourself by healing the land. And it's kind of been interesting because, as I said, I've been following my curiosities. And that's how I've come up with these random topics, because I've been noticing that these are the things that when I get curious about something, or when I'm in my curious mode, when I'm in my mode of exploration, of figuring things out, of going down the rabbit holes of research, of in my obsessive modes, I notice that there are a few subjects that I always kind of pick and choose from. And there's 6 or 7 of these subjects, and a lot of these subjects you already know about me. So one of them obviously is spirituality. You already know that I love speaking about this stuff. It enthralls me. I get excited about it. I get intense about it. Another thing that a lot of you don't know perhaps about is nutrition and health. I've been doing more videos on that now because I'm like, well, this is one of my interests, but I don't want to speak about it. I don't speak about it normally because I'm afraid that I'm not a doctor, so I shouldn't, but I've always been putting a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, I'm just sharing my experiences. And then another one is environmentalism, or connecting to Mother Earth, or my connection to Mother Earth in general. And that has been a major topic for at least 2020 for me. From the time January came up and I started going into this year, I noticed that this theme came up for me over and over and over again about my connection to Mother Earth, my connection to the land, my connection to the land, and using that connection to heal myself, to learn more about myself, to learn more about my soul and spirit, to learn more about my journey on this planet, to learn more about me in general, right? And so I decided, of course, that this is going to be one of those topics that I have to write about. As per usual, I started feeling my imposter syndrome creep up. Plane, give me a second. Sorry guys, the plane's up there and it's really loud for me at least. I don't know if it's loud for you guys. So I like to take a break when it happens. So obviously for me, as I said, imposter syndrome creeps up very quickly when I start talking about these subjects, which are really not my true forte. Well, they're not really something that I could say I'm an expert on. This is just something that I've gotten obsessed over the years and started really learning about and researching over and reading about on a very high scale, not yet at an expert level, of course, but definitely at a professional amateur level, where I read about it a lot and I talk about it a lot and I converse about it a lot and research about it extremely a lot. So I decided that even though I was feeling this imposter syndrome where I'm like, I just don't think I can write this book. And I started thinking about, okay, what if I was going to write about it, what would I write about? And I started kind of thinking about it. And this was literally in the middle of the night. I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, I don't know if I can write this book. I want to write this book. I really want to write this book, but I can't. I don't think I can. I'm not qualified. What qualifications do I have about this? I've never studied anything to do with environmental science. I am not an Aboriginal or an Indigenous person that has all this knowledge. The only knowledge I have is the stuff I've been reading about, so how dare I, right? But then I started thinking to myself, all right, what can I write about? What do I know that I can write about? And I sat down and I started writing out the chapter names that potentially could be the subject for what I could talk about. And literally in, I would say 10 minutes, I had 40 chapter names of things that I would love to talk about in this book called Heal Yourself by Healing the Land. And That's my tentative subject or tentative book name right now. I don't know if that's going to be the last one of it or the final book name, but that's what I was thinking about right now. And so literally as if by magic, I had 40 chapter names. And for me, that's a big deal because usually, even with these videos that I do with you guys, I usually just come up with the topic name. And then once I have the topic name, I can do the topic or I can do the video very easily. I just need to have the idea. The impetus for it is the idea. And so in these books as well, as long as I have the chapter names, I can literally pretty much write the books as if by magic. My muse is sitting here and she just kind of boom, 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 just pushes out all of this material as if I'm not even writing it. And so as soon as I had those 40 chapter names, I knew that I had to write the book. And so currently, as I said, I am in the process of writing this particular book about healing the land and healing yourself in the process. It's been enlightening to say the least because, first of all, I'm realizing how much I actually know about this subject, just randomly picking it up over the years through all the reading I've been doing. Because I'll be like, I have this idea in my head about this thing that I read maybe 2 years ago or 20 months ago. And I know it's in my head, I know it, I think it's real. And so I'll go and research it. I'll be like, all right, I think it's real. I don't know if it's actually perfectly what I'm thinking, but I think it's real. So let me go research it. And like 99% of the time, except for one story, which I haven't been able to find proof for, the fact that flowers change their colors depending on the temperature of the atmosphere. I read this somewhere where depending on the temperature of the atmosphere, the flowers will become darker or lighter in order to reflect more light or absorb more light, just to adjust the temperature of the atmosphere. And I don't know where I read this fact. I know I read it. It's very clear in my mind. I can see me reading it, but I couldn't find any kind of source or any material for it. So if you guys have read it and you know where I found it, can you message me, please? Because I have no idea. So I've actually not included it in my book perfectly well because I can't find a source for it. I think I read it in Eckhart Tolle's book, but I'm not sure. Anyways, and so I've read all these random facts over the years and I've kind of compiled it in my head in a way that, we do using intuition, introverted intuition. And so I have, as I said, all this information and I kind of just started writing about it and the chapters are just flowing out of me like water out of a dam. Is that the right analogy? Sometimes I wonder how I became a writer. So anyway, so I've been writing this book and it's been going really well. So the reason I wanted to do this video is not only because I'm like, hooray, thankfully I can write this book. I've been wanting to write this book and I can, and I am. But also, as I said, to follow your curiosities. And I think this is the biggest lesson that has been the epitome of 2020 for me, because in 2020 is when I finally figured out that I had all of these random curiosities and they're not just there just like that. They're actually there for a reason. They're not random, I should say. I'm calling them random curiosities, but they're not random. They're there because they're pointing me in the right direction of where I'm interested in. I am interested in the land, but I never actually speak about it in general actually with you guys, which really surprises me because if I'm on my own and I'm journaling, I write about my relationship with the land or our relationship as humanity with Mother Earth quite often. It's one of the themes that comes up over and over again for me. Why don't I speak about it more often? It's fear, I guess, but also the fear that, I won't be able to explain it properly, but the fear that also people won't understand it because a lot of this is very abstract information. So I started writing the book, as I said, and I started following my curiosities, and I've been following my curiosities in the last 2 books as well. It's been coming up so beautifully and coming out so beautifully that I really wanted to share this idea of following your curiosities as well. I don't know how many lessons I've given you guys over the years or if anything has actually stuck with you guys, but I really do notice that this is one of those things that is important. Probably doesn't come off in the tone of my voice right now, but I just don't want to start jumping around like a crazy person because that's going to be weird. But I really do recommend that if you are confused about your path in life or you're confused about what am I doing here, why am I here, literally all you need to do is follow your curiosities. Follow what kind of stuff you're interested in when you're sitting up at night or you're like laying awake in bed at night in the middle of the night like I did when I started writing the chapter names of this book. What do you think about? What are those things that your mind gravitates towards? What are those subject matters that you're always thinking about, always pondering of? What do you think about? Do you think about honeybees all the time? Or do you think about, I don't know, why water bottles are not spheres? Or do you think about architecture? Or do you think about, Japanese comics, or I don't know. So there's 100 billion things to think about, obviously, but most people will think about a few things, 6, 7, 8 items or 8 subjects mostly in their life, right? I mean, I don't always think about architecture. I actually don't really care that much about architecture. I'll read about it if necessary, or if someone gives me information about it, but I don't necessarily care. I won't go out looking for it, right? But if someone gives me an article on trees, for example, I will devour it as if it's like godsend material, right? It's extremely important to me. I love trees. I've already done a couple of videos on this, so you probably have an idea of that. But one of the books I had recommended to you is The Hidden Life of Trees, one of those books that literally spoke to my heart. I love that book so much. I can't even explain to you. So again, follow your curiosities. Where do your curiosities lead you? What are the things that you're interested in when you're moving towards, when you are just sitting around by yourself or you're talking to someone else? Mostly when I'm in conversation with people, one of the main topics that comes up for me is nutrition and health. I'm always talking about my gut bacteria. A very random topic, and my sister's always pointing it out to me. She's like, what is wrong with you? Why do you talk about this stuff? Again, these are one of my curiosities, and I love it. I just love talking about it. So all of this to say that I'd love to hear some of your curiosities. What are some of your things that you always speak about with your friends, family, with your journal, with yourself, with those imaginary friends that you might have, or real friends? I'd love to hear some of your curiosities, and if you're following them or not. Are you following them and seeing where they lead you, or are you just pushing them away thinking, oh, they're not important? I'd like to know. I'd love to hear from you guys. So comment below to share. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me through all these random topics, even though some of them are really out there. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.